In April 2009, an American colonel with 17 years of special operations experience walked into a coalition operations center in Afghanistan. He was met by an Australian warrant officer wearing $180 boots and 0 rank insignia. The Australian looked the colonel in the eye and delivered 5 words: "Get off my operations floor." He outranked him, but left anyway. The operation this Australian sergeant was running was a highly elaborate deception effort. The colonel's presence as an unvetted outsider represented a potential leap, a signature that could compromise months of invisible preparation. The Australians trusted no one outside their immediate circle. American military culture prioritized a much different approach. Operations were designed for immense scale, assuming unlimited access to helicopters, drones, quick reaction forces, and medical evacuation. The standard operating procedure was to get in fast, hit hard, and extract even faster, relying on overwhelming resources to dictate the battlefield. A mid-level Taliban facilitator operating in the southern Khorasan province understood this doctrine perfectly. He built an information network that recognized the massive footprint of American preparation. Helicopters echoed from 7 kilometers away. Vehicles triggered watches at every intersection. Rapid insertions led to empty compounds. The target simply walked away hours before they touched down. Systems built to optimize speed and visible activity generate predictable patterns. When a force relies on noise and scale to solve problems, a patient enemy simply learns the rhythm of that noise and moves underneath it. The Australian Special Air Service Regiment approached the target by asking a question the American planners had missed. They asked what would happen if the enemy's information advantage was treated as a resource to exploit rather than an obstacle to overcome. We are conditioned to fear silence and isolation. We assume if we are not constantly producing, moving, or seen, we are failing. We view stillness as a lack of progress. True durability is forged exactly when that noise fades, when external crutches are removed and you are forced to stand in complete, radical stillness. You develop a capacity that loud environments cannot teach. To bypass the Taliban's early warning network, a 4-man Australian patrol inserted on foot. They walked 12 kilometers at night, carrying 31 kilograms of equipment per man. They moved through deep shadow and loose rock, terrain that satellite imagery classified as impossible for dismounted forces to navigate. Take a look at this animated diagram. It shows the massive acoustic footprint of a standard helicopter insertion, broadcasting a warning to every fighter within a 7-kilometer radius. Contrast that massive red zone with the single, undetected dot moving at 2.3 kilometers per hour through the mountains. The doctrine dictating this movement argues that more time on the ground moving slower generates less detectable activity. Risk is calculated as a function of signature, rather than a function of time. Strategic invisibility requires enduring the arduous, punishing paths that standard operating procedures reject. The walk itself becomes the weapon. After 19 hours of movement, the team established an observation post. For the next 53 hours, they occupied a space roughly 3 meters by 2 meters. The daytime temperature exceeded 41 degrees Celsius. They consumed half a liter of water per 12-hour period. They did not move, and they did not transmit on their radios. This capacity for physical stillness reflects the spiritual architecture of the secret place. Profound isolation strips away the illusion of control. When you can no longer rely on external validation or immediate support, your discernment sharpens. You learn to occupy space without disturbing it. At hour 32, a transmission broke the silence. A local national with a herd of goats was walking directly toward the concealed operators. Standard protocol mandated immediate extraction. Instead, the team commander held his position. The boy stopped 220 meters away, sat on a rock, and watched his goats graze. The 4 Australians lay motionless in the scorching heat for 47 agonizing minutes, betting their lives entirely on the camouflage discipline drilled into them through years of isolation training. Eventually, the boy stood up and walked away. 19 hours later, the target arrived at the compound. Because he detected no preparation, he reverted to his baseline behavior, traveling with a smaller security detail and meeting with 3 previously unknown subordinate commanders. By choosing to observe rather than capture, The team intercepted a single 4-minute phone call that eventually dismantled 14 separate enemy activities. Resisting the desperate human urge to act immediately yields exponential results. Waiting turns a single tactical disruption into complete strategic access. The extraction plan called for helicopters to arrive at dusk, but miles away, a Marine patrol took fire. The entire aerial architecture of the task force was restructured to support the engagement, leaving the Australian team stranded as armed men began preparing to leave the target compound. Without asking for permission, one operator crawled 17 meters and activated a $30 modified radio transmitter. The device flooded the compound's electronic warfare systems with the exact signature of a coalition drone. Believing they were being watched from above, the Taliban fighters immediately froze in place, taking cover from an aircraft that did not exist. To escape, the team navigated directly under an active Taliban patrol, utilizing the enemy's blind spots. They reached their extraction corridor, only to find that recent rains had turned a dry riverbed into a rushing, waist-deep torrent. Moving within 90 seconds, they interlocked their arms, staggered their positioning, and used the current to ferry themselves across 400 meters of freezing water. When you operate completely independent of institutional safety nets, you develop a superior internal adaptability. Stripped of external options, survival becomes an act of deep improvisation. The American model cycled units through combat zones every 9 to 12 months. The Australian warrant officer leading this team had completed 19 deployments to this single province. He spent 3 years mapping the local network by sitting in villages, drinking tea with elders, and learning the rhythms of the valley. He knew which dogs barked at strangers. He knew the target had a scar on his left forearm from a 2009 motorcycle accident. This precision carries a heavy toll. Operators who served more than 10 rotations experienced rates of post-traumatic stress exceeding 80%. They returned home unable to turn off their pattern recognition, waking at 2 a.m. to study their neighbors' movements. They became experts in valleys they would never live in, accumulating trauma to preserve the safety of others. Reviewing the operation, the American colonel recognized the core truth of the Australian methodology. You cannot surge patience. You cannot buy institutional memory. Those capabilities represent a mastery that trillions of dollars of funding and technology cannot replicate. Attaining true mastery demands entering a hidden wilderness. It requires stripping away the noise, enduring the silence, and building an intimate knowledge of your environment, a process that will exact a permanent, heavy toll on exactly who you are.